Okay, so just a little bit about Raza Sana. We started our project back in 2021, and we've gone through a bit of a change. The project was initially called Coliseum, and then but we had incorporated that particular venture as a limited company, and we were operating as a social enterprise. And then early last year in 2023, we decided to separate because we were doing two separate things under Coliseum. We're doing sports promotion. We're also doing our community projects, but the two weren't quite aligning because one was more for profit and the other one was more a not for profit and I guess with a social purpose. So Raza Sana, we founded it early in 2023. So what Raza Sana is, what we do at Raza Sana, there we go. Yeah, so we're a not-for-profit organization and we design and deliver community well-being projects. Our vision is to initiate a public health movement that empowers mainly young people, but also their families who live in underserved inner city communities to develop healthy lifestyles and build their confidence and self-belief. Our mission is to deliver our health and well-being training programs to engage and educate young people and the wider community. And our purpose, the reason why we do this work is to address inequalities in well-being by building public street gyms, which is a space like the picture that you see just in the background, and providing free and accessible community training sessions aimed at raising awareness of basic practices that improve physical and mental health. Sorry, apologies. I am in London, so if there's that sirens going in the background, yeah, apologies. This is one of the perks of being inside London. So yeah, that's a little bit about what Raza Sana is, and I guess today I'll be sharing a little bit about our impact measurement approach. So as I mentioned, we've been working with UnLtd and Cecile and her team, the impact measurement team. And last year we piloted an impact measurement tool, which I'll talk a little bit about. But before we collaborated on piloting the impact measurement tool, we were measuring impact, and I guess this first part is just talking about how we were doing that prior to using the tool. So like from when we first started, our project grew very organically because we just started doing training sessions in the park, and at first it was just more kind of like it all started really around like COVID and the lockdown, the gym closed down, and fitness and training and well-being has always been part of my lifestyle. So when the gym closed, I kind of looked for alternatives, and that's when I found like outdoor gyms. And one of the nearby gyms was a calisthenic street gym in my area. And when we started working out, we kind of formed a community. And from there on, it really kind of started taking off. And once lockdown, so we were coming out, and for the 1 hour we were allowed to be coming out to do exercise. And once lockdown was over, the community continued, but we found that we were having more and more engagement, and that is what really then birthed the program. And I guess from a very early on, we realized that just that kind of like combination and that I guess all the components of like training outdoors in the community and like coming together, I guess like with the same kind of like ethos, it started having an impact. And we all started, when we started sharing after a while, like I guess like what the benefits of like all of us coming together and doing that, we started realizing that there was something in it, and that's kind of what then led us to build a project around this like ethos and concept. We never really thought about impact measurement until we then started looking at, all right, how do we kind of put some structure around this, and how do we ultimately get some funding so that we can then build something. And it is through that process, when we started looking at what was required to get funding and to kind of get some support, that we realized actually we need to demonstrate what the benefit and what the impact of our project was. So identifying the impact areas was a very useful initial exercise. And I imagine a lot of you guys with your projects, you would have also gone through this exercise. For us, it was, we find ourselves naturally in the health and well-being space. And it was just a better understanding like what areas we were impacting around health and well-being. So that's kind of like been evolving actually throughout the years, and where we've got to with it is we know that there's obviously the physical benefits, and then we've looked at how do we measure and how do we communicate and share the physical benefits, but also we've also seen that there's been like the mental health side of things. So between those two approaches, between those two areas, that's where we've mainly focused, where our impact is. And as we've been evolving and growing with the project, we've realized actually there's a few more areas which I'll talk a bit more about that. Once we kind of identified the impact areas, we then looked at measuring tools. So how do we go on about collating and actually gathering data that actually proves and demonstrates that this is having an impact. So initially we were doing just like questionnaires that we made up, just really to collect feedback and to understand like participants, where they felt that they felt benefit. And then we also done some surveys. But as we went through the journey, we realized actually that our questionnaires and our surveys is good for us to get an insight into our project. But when we wanted to communicate to funders, to partners, to local authorities, to other community stakeholders, we also required kind of measures that were validated. So we were quite fortunate that we had, I was introduced to our local NHS team, and they've been working alongside us for the last 3 years, and having that support has really helped us understand a bit more about impact measurement. And one of the things that has been really like useful for us to understand is that there's validated measures. So these are like measures that you may find, these are like questionnaires or surveys that are created by institutions or created by government organizations or recognized bodies that practically validated, and so that like the questionnaires and the questions actually give you a scale, and these scales, when you use to present your data, and like and when we also go on to do your reporting, but especially for funders, it holds a bit more weight, because these kind of like are like validated measures by like academic bodies and the NHS themselves, for England, etc. So I'm not sure like how much you guys know about this, but I thought I'll share that, because initially we were doing our own questionnaires, but then finding out that these validated measures has really kind of given us a bit more credibility, and also just helped us understand a bit more as well about the impact that we're having with the community members that we're working with. And then working with UnLtd over the last year and a half, and attending some of the workshops that UnLtd and the Movement for Change program have as part of the support available. I attended one of the. Oh, sorry guys, I've put the like all our images just on the side, so I'm not sure if anyone wants to like have a question or something. I'm not sure if it shows up or not, but I'll try and keep an eye. But feel free, if this, I'd rather not be just blasting out. If there's anything that you feel that you want to like ask along, please feel free just to kind of like unmute and just let me know. So it's not just that one-way traffic, and hopefully it's more of a discussion. But I'm just going to go along. But as I said, feel free to just stop me if there's anything that you want to ask or anything that you want to suggest. So going back onto like the measuring tool, the third part of it is understanding social value charters, and that's something that I learned and had a good insight through one of the Movement for Change workshops, and that is practically what's been a massive game changer for us, especially working with local authorities. So social value charters is practically what, yeah, bodies or organizations like local authorities or housing associations. There's a few other social value charters that, for example, some corporate companies use. And what this is that criteria that they set out that practically that they use to measure social value. So for us and the work that we do, we found that local authorities, for example, their social value charter is called the TOMS framework, which is the Themes, Outcomes, and Measures framework. And if you Google that, you'll be able to actually get all the information on it. And we've also found that the HAT framework, actually, I don't remember what HAT stands for, but that's what housing associations use. But if you actually Google HAT social value charter, that's what all housing associations, so that's like your Peabodys, that's like your Marlboroughs and etc. Like, you know, Berkeley, all these massive corporations that do housing associations. This is the social value charter that they use. So if you can align your project to meet on that criteria, you're speaking their language, and chances are that when you present a proposal and you say we deliver on this charter and this is how we deliver on this criteria that you've set out, you really actually it just really opens the door wide open. So yeah, we found that that's been a massive it's shifted the needle quite a lot for our project. So with all these these are the kind of it's been our journey of like the measurement tools that we used prior to using the UnLtd tool, and this is how we've gone about measuring our impact. And then with each of these, we've obviously collated the data, and again, it's also been a journey of learning how to analyze that data and how to analyze the data and then how to ultimately convert that data into then something that we can report back to funders, but we can also use for our reports when we submitting proposals for funding or for projects that we want to do out in the community. So that this has kind of been like the journey so far on prior to using the tool. So last year, working with Cecile, we started. So Cecile put together the first version of the UnLtd impact measurement tool. I think it was around March, and we implemented it around May. And what we've done is we've done a small sample just to test out on one of our projects. So it's one of the projects that we were running in London, in Tottenham. So with the implementation, it's actually quite straightforward, because the way the tool works is you kind of get a portal, and within the portal, you have pretty much everything that you need there. There's a link that is very accessible and that you can share in like WhatsApp groups, or you can share it through your comms channels with participants of your project. For us personally, in our project, we found it a little bit, the implementation at first was a bit tricky, because we have a WhatsApp group, but we tend to work a lot with young people. And when we put the link in the group chat with young people, it proved to be quite tricky to get them to do it. So what we found is actually the best approach was actually to sit down with them when they came to the session, and actually sit with them and actually just do the questionnaire with them. So actually just one of us on a laptop just be like, oh, do you mind just helping us, you know, like just like complete the survey, just to find out like your thoughts and what you think about the project, and like, you know, if this has been any use to you. And more often than not, the young people were like quite happy to do that with us. So that's how we went about implementing and using the tool. Some of the benefits that's come off that has been the fact that the tool is actually quite comprehensive, and it's also given us insights into areas that we never really actually even considered, like would be like actual like areas of impact and measurement, especially around like the social value work. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. It's also given us insights into like feedback in different ways, separate to the questionnaires and the surveys that we were using it. Some of the questions are a bit more focused and they relate a bit more to painting a wider picture of like the actual social value that we're delivering. So, for example, like one of the questions in the survey is about truancy and young people skipping school, which we never really actually even gave any thought to. But when we then done the pre, because so sorry, one thing I forgot to mention with implementation is that the way the tool works is you do a start questionnaire at the start of like a period, and then you do an end questionnaire over a period. So we've done it from May and at the start, and then September was the end. And then between that period, it kind of measures the value. It measures, sorry, the change and the kind of improvement or the value, I guess. So again, going with the benefits, this is one of the benefits, that looking at that actually truancy and like, reducing truancy, reducing that kind of part, actually, that the value that has. Now moving on, just with kind of conscious of time as well, and you guys just again being one-way traffic. So some of the challenges we found with it was our service is quite transient. So young people come and go, and in Tottenham, it's a very transient area. So the group of young people that we started that done the initial survey were not the same group of people that completed the end survey. So altogether, there was only 8 that actually completed the start and end survey. The sample was 25 completions, but the other 17 we didn't have like the pre and post. So it did kind of throw off a little bit, like the stats were a bit different, and we found that to be a challenge. One of the other challenges as well is the fact that with the survey, if you're running multiple projects, as we do, it doesn't give you the option to separate or differentiate where the stats come from. So we have a project in Tottenham, but we also have projects in West London. We have a project in South London. So when the way the tool works is that once like you will get like beneficiaries or participants to complete it, but when it completes it, it turns it into like a code just to kind of anonymize the person completing. And at that point, and it's a bit hard to know where that kind of data came from, which specific project. And I guess that's a bit of a challenge because, as you guys might know, like working with different funders want to know what their data is for the project that they funded and not the overall data of what your entire organization does. So those were 2 of kind of like the main challenges we found with using the impact measurement tool. And in terms of value, as I said, it's really helped us now present a much more rounded picture and a more comprehensive view of like the actual social value that we've created. So how we've used some of the data, we've used some of the feedback that the tool's given us, also with some of our feedback naturally to improve the surveys. Hearing our participants' voice is obviously important because, as you guys all know, without the beneficiaries and the participants engaging with our service, we don't exist. So we always listen, and we always take that feedback on board, and we always strive our best to implement any suggestions, any ideas. We've been using the data to pitch our project to funders and partners and other members of the community, and that's been something. Oh, sorry. That's been something that's really helped us as well. Just really help people see like the value of the work that we're doing, and as I already mentioned, it's helped us gain a better insight into our project social value. What this has done is also really given a lot more weight to our fundraising. So we've applied for 2 funding opportunities that we've been invited to apply for, and one of them has been successful. And the funder actually mentioned that the fact that we provided some of the stats and some of the data to validate what we do and I guess our social value, they really like that approach, and they have actually asked us to use those same measures for our reporting on this particular project. And we're waiting to hear. So like I think end of Jan we hear from the second funding opportunity that we've applied for. But yeah, it's been really useful. This here is just one of the ways that we've kind of we've presented the data. So coupled with some of the research that we've done, so we obviously do our own research to be able to demonstrate our understanding of the demographics that we're working with and our core audience. So for the particular project in Tottenham, we used the local authority census. So whichever local authority you work with or your local council is, they'll usually have a census, and the census actually has a lot of valuable information that that ideally we all want to be aware of, because it just helps to support and demonstrate our understanding of the area and our understanding of the people that we are serving. So one of the really I guess like meaningful or like important stats that we got from the census is actually based around the state that we work in, which is the Northumberland Park estate, and is the #1 list of most deprived wards in Haringey. And understanding like, like what a docile one ward is, which practically means that it's in the top 10% most deprived LSOAs. And at the bottom, I've just put a little bit just explaining what an LSOA is, which is a lower layer super output area, which is used by government to monitor data over time because the boundaries, rarely change. So just highlighting that, it just demonstrates the fact that our service is really needed in this area, because it's actually an area that's actually quite deprived, and the residents there, more often than not, do not have the resources to access your traditional sports clubs, or like, they can't afford like memberships, or they can't, a lot of the time, yes, there are like football and boxing projects and everything, but what a lot of the young people we work with, some of the feedback they get is that sometimes they can't even afford like football boots, or they can't afford, like the gloves, or, they can't even afford sometimes £2 to go just to like the local boxing club. So some of a lot of the families that we young people that we work with come from families that actually are like, really facing hardship. So our project, and just by the nature of it, we build like street gyms, and this is the street, the images that are like in the background. This is one of the street gyms we built in the Northumberland Park estate. It's actually a public outdoor space that is open to everyone, and they can use it whenever they want. And all we do is we put on set sessions throughout the week, training sessions which are free, they're accessible, anyone can join in, you don't need to sign up, you just turn up, get involved. And that nature and that kind of informal approach is really appealing to young people, but also as well, like the structure that we put behind the training sessions, we also ensure that we're always adding maximum value. Now, through the period that we've done the impact measurement, the pilot with UnLtd, some of the stats on the right hand side is things that for example that are measured through the impact measurement tool. So like improvement in self-reported health, improvement in self-confidence, increase in physical activity, improved sense of happiness. And again, as you guys can know, that these are areas that that align quite well with criteria that funders want to see impact on. Now, I wasn't able to figure out how to take a screenshot from the actual like portal, like where the impact measurement tool is, but in there, there's a whole load of other data, especially like on the social value side, that gives you monetary value per segment, or like per thing that's measured. And one of the figures that we found that actually, like, since we've been communicating with our funders and with our partners and also with community groups, is understanding the overall social value created over the 6-month period that we've done this. And overall, it was £24,000, which actually was a return on like the funding that we were given. So that was actually really useful to be able to show that. And then again, the impact measurement tool like has the calculations for how this figure is calculated. And Cecile can talk more about that. She's like a brain box, and I don't know how that works, so I'll leave that to Cecile. And then the other side, on the left-hand side, this is one of the areas that perhaps the tool at the moment doesn't have a way of like giving you, which is the outputs. So there isn't a way to demonstrate like how over the time, like how the data or the value that you've captured and measured throughout that period, like the output that kind of goes with it. So when we looked at it, you know, this was all achieved through the 64 community training sessions that we've done. Again, it also doesn't have a way of demonstrating like the number of beneficiaries that you engage overall. So obviously our sample was of 25, but overall we engage 163 beneficiaries, and then a number of engagements. So like these type of outputs, I'm not sure like Cecile can talk a bit more about this, but this was also brought up in when we done a workshop with a PA consultancy, which was one of the organizations that's also supported us throughout this project. Yeah, so just finishing off, guys. I guess moving forward, as I mentioned, like over the last 3 years, it's been a journey of developing and growing and better understanding impact measurement, and the strategy is always evolving. And the more we work with funders and partners and other community organizations, the more like that understanding just builds. And naturally, I think one of the things that we've always been quite open to and has worked quite well for us is that we've always been open to developing and growing and changing, and not kind of like just setting and kind of like just saying, okay, we have this one measure and this is what we're sticking with. I guess that having a bit more of a growth mindset approach rather than a fixed mindset approach of just kind of like, I guess it is a lot of work, and I'm not going to lie, like there's sometimes like you feel like tearing your hair out when you're trying to figure out how to do certain parts or how to implement something new, or, you know, there's kind of like, as you kind of all know how this all works. But with that, I guess like being open to developing and kind of like tweaking things and, you know, updating or changing things is really important, and actually it brings a lot of value and it helps the project grow. We're exploring as well opportunities to use data and support other areas of our project, which, you know, not necessarily related to fundraising, but just actually like building partnerships. So one of the things that this year we're doing is we are launching services into the corporate sector to raise more funds and actually to move to a more sustainable business model. So what we're looking to do is to actually go in and deliver well-being services into the corporate sector, but also create an opportunity for the corporates to also connect with members in the community. So we're inviting corporate teams down to come and participate in our sessions, meet local people, so young people and their families, and actually just have that more kind of personable interaction where we all train together, and like really bridging those kind of like social gaps that sometimes occur just quite naturally by demographic, geographically, and all the other factors that sometimes just prevent us from kind of like really connecting. So again, this data is also helping us in communicate that. So, and then last point is just, again, just moving forward, it's about validating the project social value, and our long-term aim is to be able to secure a long-term contract. So we are working with as I said, with an NHS team that's been supporting us, and they're helping us get to a place where we can actually be able to approach the NHS and hopefully put a really comprehensive proposal to commissioners. That's it, guys. I hope that's all right, and that's kind of giving a little bit of an insight into I guess what our impact measurement journey has been like. Sorry if that was a mouthful. Just try to get it all in and leave enough time for all of us to have a discussion and yeah, hopefully share as well what we've been up to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan. It's incredible to see all the work that you've done, and yeah, thank you for sharing it so openly and like very exciting to see what's next as well. I can see Danielle has posted a couple of questions, primarily linked to how you've been using the impact tool. So first one, do you give an iPad or a piece of paper to the participant, or do you fill out is this something that you fill in as the organizer? And have you found it valuable to record data on Google Sheets at the same time as using the tool? There's another one, but maybe let's start with this first.
Yeah. So yeah, we do it. We sit there and then with thank you. I've seen the comments, guys. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. So yeah, the way we've done it, because we work with young people, and a lot of the young people we work with, yeah, as I mentioned, it's quite challenging just to give them a link and expect them to do it. We've actually sat down with them on a tablet or sometimes on the laptop and just actually done it there and then with them. A lot of the time as well, sometimes some of the questions you have to kind of like rephrase them to make them a bit understandable and accessible to some of the young people. Because yeah, some of the questions, the way they're worded, they're quite straightforward, but as you can imagine, there's different ability levels. There's also neurodivergent participants. So sometimes it takes a little bit of like tweaking and adjusting just to kind of like make sure that the language is something that they can understand. So we found actually sitting there with them and doing it with them on a tablet was the best approach. With regards to using Google Sheets, we definitely use that. So we've got our own Google Sheet surveys, and we use validated measures, which again, happy to follow up on some of the measures that the NHS team I work with has kind of helped us identify that these are like good measures to use for our service. Especially, I think some of you guys mentioned you're also working with young people using sports approaches. And actually, those of you also as well that are working actually with all kind of audiences might be useful measures. But these are, like, as I said, they're validated measures. So like when you actually use this data and you say we use this measure to collect this data, funders, commissioners, partners, people's going to look at it like, okay, this is like like I guess a recognized measure. So yeah, we use the Google Forms. I think that answered the two questions. I think it was two questions you asked there, isn't it?
Thank you, Juan. Yes, the other one was around recording and analyzing the data. Danielle says, I have people join me from multiple lessons and events, so I find it hard to not double count. Have you found this tool helps with not double counting?
Sorry, Big. Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. Sorry.
So Danielle says, I struggle with recording and analyzing data in that I have people join me for multiple lessons and events. So I find it hard to not double count. Have you found this tool helps with this?
As I mentioned, with the tool just collects all in one central location at the moment. And again, Cecile can give us a bit more insight into this and maybe different ways of separating. But yeah, so it will. So if you've got like 3 or 4 projects or 3 or 4 different sessions with different participants, the one link that you would use to collect data captures it all. And at the moment, again, as I said, Cecile will be the best person to kind of ask this to. It kind of all lives in one central location. And I don't know if there is a way of like differentiating where each, practically, yeah, like which data belongs to which project, if that kind of makes sense.
Thanks.
I'm happy to jump in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Juan mentioned my name quite a few times, so
Sorry, sister, I'm putting you in the hot seat, but you're the brain box. Sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, but to answer quickly on the question that Daniel was asking in terms of double counting. Basically, the tool used the same survey link for, pre-activity, responses and post-activity responses. And the way to kind of like being able to identify the individual is to record their name and their first name and their date of birth. And basically based on that, there's like a unique identifier. So if, for example, you have like multiple people coming over a long period of time, as long as they put in the survey the same first name and the same date of birth, which is unlikely to change, they'll be able to kind of like be recognized and the information will be matched, according to that person, if that makes sense. Cool.
Thank you, Cecile. And yes, we'll definitely be sharing more information about the tool because I appreciate it. It's probably difficult to understand without seeing what it looks like. I'm conscious of time, but I want to allow maybe space for another question if anybody has one or a reflection from what you've heard from Juan. Ellie, go for it.
Hi, that was really interesting. Thank you, Juan. I was just curious what kind of how you're getting on with the NHS and discussing potential commissioning opportunities with the NHS. Are they responsive to this kind of the outcomes and the feedback that you've collected, or are they? The experience that I've had so far, and I haven't got very far, so little experience, is that they have quite a sort of structured way of communicating, and if you're trying to bring in a new framework, they're less interested, frankly. I wondered what your experience was.
Yeah. So you are right. They do work with a set structure and sorry, 1 second. Sorry. Sorry, I'm just in the center where we're working, and got the young people busy today. So yeah, working with the NHS, it's I mean to get to the point where for commissioning, you do kind of have to follow the structure that they work with, bringing like measures that are not validated. It's that's kind of like where commissioners do want to see validated measures practically. So for you to get to the point where to be commissioned by the NHS, you do have to kind of like use measures that the NHS recognize. So at the moment, this tool can supplement like your proposal and definitely add I guess add weight, but the core of it does want to be mainly following like the structures that I guess the NHS work towards, and it's ultimately it's about understanding the criteria that the NHS work towards, and if you really kind of can get your head around in the team that you work with, or I guess we've been quite fortunate that we've met a team that's really progressive and really like open to kind of like supporting community organizations here in Haringey. But yeah, that's as far as we've got with it. They are kind of helping us get build our understanding and aim in that direction, because that's what we've told them where we'd like to get to.